Hello, and welcome to the Leisurely Learning series on supporting digital research with assistive technology tools. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that although we are all participating in this learning from different places, that we are connected to each other and the land as members of the York Region District School Board, and that the board is located on the traditional territories of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabes people, whose presence here continues to this day. I would also like to acknowledge the land we are on is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. I would like to thank them and other Indigenous people for sharing this land with us. I would also like to acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our closest Indigenous community and our partners in education. In this video series, we will be covering 5 topics: finding resources and tracking them, optimizing your search, finding the right resources, collecting and collating information, and citing references. This is the first video in the series, finding resources and tracking them. Now, before you start giving your students access to Google search and just having them fall down the rabbit hole of entering a topic and hoping they end up with something that is reliable and at a reading level that they can understand, I highly suggest you direct your students to the www.wiredsb site. No login or password is needed to access this, and there the board has collated a series of online tools that students can use. Let's take a quick look at some of these tools. So here we are on the www. Under online tools, we're going to see student tools and resources. And when we click on this, it's going to open up into their list. And there's 3 in here that I particularly really like for resourcing. The first is the Canadian Encyclopedia. It does not require a login and password, and what's great about it is it has French. So if you're a French immersion teacher, this is a great place to start. The other 2 that I really like are the Encyclopedia Britannica and the Gale database. These 2 do require logins and passwords. They are generic, and to access them, you need to go to the BWW to get them. Let's take a quick look at these 2 and why I really like them. So the Britannica, the first thing you're going to notice when you go in is that it's going to ask you to pick a level. So if your students are in a higher grade, they're going to pick something from the higher level. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start my search, and I'm going to type in climate change. And it's going to pull up a series of articles for me. There are other choices here on the side, but I like to have my students start with articles. I'm going to go into this one. And I've got some great information in here. Now, what I really like about this is that if I start reading this and I realize I'm not really understanding what this article is talking about, up here at the top there are some reading level numbers, and I can change my reading level numbers to a level that would be more appropriate for me. Okay, so that's great for students and a great way for them to differentiate. Gale does something similar. So if you go into Gale, it does have some sub-databases. So I'll go into this one on environmental studies. I'm going to type in climate change here. And again, it produces a lot of different kinds of resources that students can use. And it does provide students with the option of the Lexile measure and the content level. Not every student is going to understand the Lexile level. What I really like about the content level, though, is it's a picture. So they can kind of guess where they're going based on the picture. They're going to choose the level they want. They can apply that. And it's going to pull up stuff at that level. So a really great way to filter and kind of refine to something that they need. So when I have my students do their resourcing, referencing, what I will often do, let's try that again. Okay. I will often have them actually do their researching first. So I won't have them go through and read all the articles necessarily. I'm just going to have them pick stuff that they think is going to be useful for them, right? Because we don't always get access to the computers every day. One of the tools that I really like to use to help keep track of what I'm doing is called Google Keep. And Google Keep is part of the Google suite of applications. And basically it works as a digital corkboard with Post-it notes. And one of the key things that it has is something called a Google Keep Chrome extension. So when you basically you need to go to the Chrome Web Store, you need to access it from the Chrome Web Store, and it's going to show up in your extensions as this little square with a light bulb. When you are here, it's gray, but if I were to go back over here to the sites where I was looking at things, so if I go into this article here, and let's say I find this to be a really useful article, you're going to notice that this is turned black here now. So I'm going to click on this, and you're going to see that it's providing me a link to this site, and I can go in here and take a note, and I can say this is really good about impacts of change, right? And what I can also do is assign a label to it, and this is going to help me search for things later. So I'm going to assign the label climate change, and I'll go over here as well, and I'll do the same thing over here. I'll take a note, and I'm going to talk about, this is going to go into the science more about it, and I'll put a label on here as well, and go to climate change. Now, the other thing with this is that it's got it all there as a resource. I can view it later by going into keep.google.com, and that's basically where all those post-it notes are found. And you can see here it's giving me that link. It's giving me the titles that I put in. You can see the labels here. Right now, this is the only thing in here, so there's no need to filter, but if I was doing research for other classes or other topics, I could go into the labels over here and search specifically by the label that I wanted. The other great thing about this is that if I am in a Google Doc, and I'll just go over here to a Google Doc, and I want to access those post-it notes over here on the sidebar inside of Google, I can press on the Google Keep button, and I have access to those references, right? So, and I can actually take this information, and if I wanted to, I could take it and drag it and drop it into my document. So a great way to kind of keep track of the resources that I'm going to be using. All right, the next thing I want to look at is, now that we've got kind of all of our resources stored in one place, what do we do next? So the next thing I have my students do is I have them actually track the resources in a spreadsheet. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I do that. So we're just going to go over here. So I use a standard template, topic, description of task, the sites, and what are the things that they're going to be researching. Basically, those are the idea numbers. So here's one that's complete. They're going to be doing something on climate change. Here's a list of sites that I've gone through and kind of the 4 topics that I'm researching. And I put in checkboxes here, and this is really a great way for students to visualize, do they have enough resources for those particular topics? So when I look at this, I can see that I've got lots on the science, the proof, the impact, but I don't have a lot on the counter arguments. So I really need to go in here and I need to do a bit more research. So it really helps me focus and make sure that I'm not spending too much time on one thing and then running out of time for the other. Okay, so that is the first part of this series. The next video in this series will be optimizing your search. Thank you for watching.